Welcome, audience, to the second week of the fourth season of the Victory Draft League. I'm Will, coach of the Ripley County Rhydons, and today we're going to be taking a look at my match with Cadella, coach of the Texas Toad Frogs. Let's jump right into the team preview for the first battle. Cadella brought along much of what I expected in my planning, and I'm very relieved not to see Mawile and its Intimidate, given how many of my offensive threats this week are physical. I was certain that Tapu Fini, Hydreigon, Buzzwole, and Articuno would make an appearance, and while Berserker seemed quite likely for its access to Fake Out, both it and Dhelmise were in my maybe pool. Dhelmise's presence here is telling, as it is quite slow compared to all other 11 Pokemon present for this match. Articuno has access to Trick Room and Tailwind, and Cadella has done a good job of balancing their team's speed tiers in a way that could take advantage of either option. With this in mind, Berserker or Articuno seem like obvious leads to me. As for me, Electivire presents a bulky, hard-hitting threat to each of my opponent's 6, between Fire Punch, Ice Punch, Wild Charge, and Darkest Lariat. Xatu will let me fight for control of a fast speed war with my own Tailwind, and I can always protect on the first turn to prevent Berserker breaking my Focus Sash with its Fake Out. Tapu Bulu and Moltres will provide solid backup offensive power, coverage, and give me a ton of flexibility with my Dynamax choice. Cadella leads not one or the other, but both Berserker and Articuno. This provides them a lot of flexibility to safely set up their speed buff of choice, assuming that they have both options. Fake Out will prevent me from matching Tailwind on the first turn, so I choose to assume the obvious play and I protect Xatu. Now, while Cadella has provided a very flexible utility lead, it doesn't present much of an offensive threat, nor does it provide a defensive blockade, which prompts me to throw a turn 1 Max into their face and demand that they deal with it. I go back and forth whether to give a Max Lightning into the Articuno slot, but decide that in the case of something like a Hydreigon or a Dhelmise switch in, I'd rather hit it with a Max Hailstorm. Plus, if the Articuno is sashed, there's a chance to pick up an indirect KO with Hail Chip damage. The Protect pays off, blocking Berserker's flinch attempt, and my prediction that Articuno would set up speed control was correct. Tailwind is better for me in this case than Trick Room. It's likely that on my second turn I can set Tailwind to match it, and my team is on average faster than Cadella's. Max Hailstorm doesn't end up doing enough to knock out Articuno, even with the Hail Chip, but this may work out in my favor as I also didn't give Cadella a free switch-in to something more threatening than Articuno. Something that I forgot to consider is that the Hail Chip would also break Xatu's Sash, but it was likely less damage than Fake Out would have otherwise done, so I still consider it the correct play. I choose to try and set up my own Tailwind, hopeful that Xatu can last long enough to do so. For Electivire, I had a lot of quick successive thoughts about how to attack. After watching Articuno weather the Hailstorm, I don't expect Max Flare to Oko Berserker, and then the weather would be set to Sun, preventing any chance of Articuno going down to another round of hail damage. Max Darkness to finish off Articuno would lower Berserker's special defense, but that's not immediately relevant. My final decision ends up being a Max Lightning to set up Electric Terrain in case I need to fire off another electric move later on. Something unexpected happens here. Xatu, even through my opponent's Tailwind, outspeeds Berserker. Turns out Berserker is almost as slow as Dhelmise, but I didn't realize that until after the match. And it turns out that Max Lightning is the correct choice to finish off Articuno. I learned that it's holding a Walkin' Berry. A very good choice of item by Cadella. Electivire wasn't even on my original team for this match, and was only added last minute when I realized how well its covering moves matched my opponent's roster. Xatu goes down here, making me all the gladder that it got to move before Berserker. It's done its job for this battle. Moltres comes out to meet Buzzwole, and I have no reason to believe that a 60 EV speed invested Moltres won't outpace both Buzzwole and Berserker, making firing off a Heat Wave here an easy call. I really don't want Buzzwole to stick around if I can help it, so I decide to spend my last max turn hoping that the double up with Max Flare will take it down. Plus, it sets up the sun from Moltres as we start moving closer towards the endgame. Berserker backs out for Tapu Fini, which is a great move on my opponent's part for a lot of reasons. I lose my electric terrain, Buzzwole escapes any chance of getting burned, Fini will resist the Heat Wave like a champ, and Cadella gets to preserve Berserker for another fake out later. Buzzwole maxes, which I expected, and unfortunately doesn't go down to the Max Flare. However, with the sun set, Moltres should still secure the KO next turn, even with the drop to its special attack, thanks to this Max Flutterby. My max may be over, and my electric terrain may be gone, but I should still have the speed advantage. Further, I know Tapu Fini isn't holding a Walkenberry, so Wild Charge and Heat Wave together should clear the field, assuming no protects or misses occur. Buzzwole max guards, which makes sense if the goal is to get it next to Berserker after Fini goes down, or if Fini outspeeds me and is able to pick up some KOs. Fini does not outspeed either of my Pokemon, and with a little more chip from Heat Wave, Wild Charge blows it out of the water. Berserker comes back out, and I'm expecting to fake out into Moltres. I haven't revealed Protect yet, and I considered clicking it for a few moments. However, I can just as easily switch out into Tapu Bulu. If Bulu or Electivire go down, then I still have a full health Moltres in the back, with the sun boosting it, and without any special attack drops. Fake Out goes into Tapu Bulu's slot, which allows Electivire to get the final blow on Buzzwole, putting Berserker into a 1v3 that it would be hard-pressed to overcome under most any circumstances. I consider launching a superpower into Berserker, but of all the moves on Bulu, I decide that Horn Leech is the most obvious one that Cadella could expect. I risk not picking up the KO in order to preserve the moveset information. Fire Punch does more than enough for Bulu to finish off Berserker, and with that, Game 1 is mine. Moving right along into Game 2, I almost talked myself into a bad habit of mine. That is, over-adjusting my plan for Game 2 after winning a Game 1. I'm not sure how Cadella will adjust, but I'm confident that Electivire and Xatu are still strong enough to match anything that they can try. In the end, I elect to take the same 4 Pokemon and leave the adjustment up to them. Cadella also leads the same as their game 1, but I'm a bit suspicious of the idea that they would try the exact same game plan. After all, I do suspect Trick Room, and I know I don't have much to fear offensively from this lead. I'll still protect to cover the option, and maxing isn't going to be picking me up any one-hit KOs, so I decide to hold on to it and opt for getting in some good damage on Berserker. If I can keep it from cycling in later for a second fake out, the late game will be that much easier. Fire Punch is threatening a 2-hit KO if I land it again, but something I didn't expect happens when Berserker drops Electivire's special defense with a metal sound. Now Articuno is definitely a threat to Electivire. Trick Room comes out from Articuno, and while the Protect ended up being pointless, I'm quite glad I didn't try to set up my own Tailwind. That does leave Xatu in what could be an awkward situation, except that, as I'm sure some of you have realized from the movesets that have been on screen, I have Ally Switch, and I've decided that it's time to start the mind game. Electivire should go before Articuno in Trick Room, but I know I can't one-hit KO it, and I would really like to get this Berserker out of here, since it's currently the situationally fastest thing on the board. I didn't expect Articuno to switch out here, and depending on how I chose to attack, it could have meant that Hydreigon ate on Ice Punch here. My guess is that Cadella expected Electivire to switch out in fear of being one-shot, more than they expected an Ice Punch, but that of course doesn't account for Ally Switch. Instead of Xatu, Electivire takes an Iron Head, rather well I might add, and I clench for a moment worried that I set myself up to be flinched. Thankfully, the dice are in my favor this time, and Electivire takes out Berserker. I respect Dhelmise, but I'm not particularly scared of it in this situation. That being said, I'm double targeting it with Xatu and Electivire because I expect Hydreigon to Dynamax here, and I don't know if it has a weakness policy. The best thing I believe I can do here is try to survive its max turns and get it alone by picking off its partners. Hydreigon maxes as I expected, and Dhelmise gets some decent damage on my side with a Rock Slide. Electivire and Xatu, in turn, push Dhelmise into the red, and Electivire even manages to burn the anchor before dropping to a max darkness. Dhelmise is now significantly less dangerous. I bring out Tapu Bulu in Electivire's place. I expect that Hydreigon probably has a Fire-type move, a Dragon-type move, a status move that will turn into Max Guard, and I've already seen that it has a Dark move. It won't use a Fire move on Xatu, likely, and it won't use a Dragon or a Dark move on Tapu Bulu, who is immune or resistant to Hydreigon's stab moves. I opt to ally switch for what will surely be the last time for Xatu. Additionally, I don't have a fairy move on Tapu Bulu because it gets a total of 2 offensive fairy moves, Nature's Madness and Dazzling Gleam. Neither of these are physical attacks. Additionally, I have Moltres in the back, and a plan to get Hydreigon alone. Max Darkness will finish off Dhelmise even through a Protect, and it will lower Hydreigon's special defense for Moltres to clean up later. The turn goes even better than I had hoped, because while Dhelmise does go for another Rock Slide, the burn from Fire Punch drops its damage far enough for Xatu to survive, and receive the max Steel Spike that would have otherwise gone into Tapu Bulu. It's not the fire move that I expected, but the result is close to the same. Hydreigon does get a physical defense boost, but my plan is intact, and my plan doesn't care about Hydreigon's physical defense. Moltres and Articuno both take the field once more, and I finally get to show off the Grassy Seed tech on Moltres, which made me happy, even though it's functionally useless against 2 special attackers. Trick Room remains for one more turn, and I suspect that Moltres will outspeed Hydreigon when the speed conditions return to normal, so I protect to stall out both Trick Room and Hydreigon's last turn of max, while I move to pick off Articuno with one more Max Darkness, further lowering Hydreigon's special defense. Articuno doesn't get a chance to act, and overall I believe I got a lot more use out of Cadella's Trick Room than they themselves did. Max Wormwind chips Moltres through its Protect and lowers Tapu Bulu's attack on the stage, but my Moltres is invested well into bulk, so there was no way it was going down with that hit, even if it had been a critical hit. Trick Room is over. Hydreigon is vulnerable to Air Slash, and I also decided to all in with Tapu Bulu with the strongest hit I can deliver, even at a -2 damage deficit. I just have to hope that Air Slash does not miss, and that if it does, it doesn't turn out that Hydreigon does have a weakness policy. Thankfully, the dice roll is once more in my favor. Not only does Air Slash hit, but it also flinches Hydreigon, leaving it standing still and alone to take the finishing blow from Tapu Bulu, giving me the win for the second battle, and the match as a whole. And that's all. Thank you for watching or listening. Good game again to Cadella. It was a fun match, and I really wish you luck with the rest of your VDL performance. If you enjoyed the video, please click all of the relevant YouTube buttons, and I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful day.